Team India back in action to start their possible quest for an elusive semi-final spot. But like with any good concert, there's an opening act before that. And today the opening act comes from Dubai. It is New Zealand taking on Scotland in under the sun in an afternoon game in Dubai. And then as the sun sets, it will not set on the cricket for the day. It will be India versus Afghanistan from just down Sheikh Zayed Road in Abu Dhabi. This is a Group 2 fixture and everything to play for Team India. For now, we look forward to the first game in the company of Joy Bhattacharjya and Dinesh Karthik on Cricbuzz Live. Welcome to all of you. Welcome, gentlemen. DK, it should be quite a match for Team India, but let's not forget New Zealand also have to get those 2 points. It's important for them.
Yes, I think Team India will be hoping somewhere that Scotland can, give New Zealand a bit of scare. If not upset them, that'll be good for them. But at this point of time, we all know, India have to win their match against Afghanistan. It is a very, very important affair for them. They haven't played the brand of cricket they're known to play over a period of time. So it's going to be a very interesting 3-hour tussle, and I'm sure both teams are up for it. As much as India would love to win, I think Afghanistan also would love to put out a statement saying, hey, don't forget us. We are in the running too.
They certainly are in the running. But Joy, looking at the opening act, as I said, Scotland are the one team who would like to still step up a little bit, because while Namibia have shown what they're capable of, certainly Afghanistan have turned up, Scotland are one team who will need to just turn it up a notch.
No, absolutely. And, if you look at their history, the way they've been going as compared to where Namibia was, or even say where in Afghanistan was 10, 11 years back, Kedze was still batting out there. He was probably not the captain out there. And then all these guys have just streamed past them and gone ahead. And somewhere Scottish cricketers, you have that feeling that they're good. They're very competent at the associate level. They're just not being able to take that next step towards, becoming an established cricket power. And I think that's something that they'll want to disprove, especially given the fact that countries like Namibia, the way yesterday Namibia played against Pakistan, I thought they played absolutely brilliantly. They played really good cricket. Yes, they lost that match, but they played fearless cricket. They went for their shots. And I think whether they win or lose today, Scotland needs to show some of that resolve. And obviously, we didn't see it in the first couple of matches because, the way Afghanistan blew them away, the way even these people blew them away, Namibia blew them away, they need to show us something now.
Yeah, well, Scotland, if anything, they trust their bowling a little bit more than they do their batting. We saw what happened against Afghanistan. So they've won the toss and decided that they'll take a chance with their bowlers up front and ask New Zealand to have first strike and then see what happens in the second half. So whether or not that is a decision that they come to rue, we'll find out very shortly. But DK, quick reaction to that for an associate nation. We'll have a look at the points table first and see what the scenario is for New Zealand in particular. They're on 2 points at the moment. They've just won that one game. Seems like a while. They lost the game to Pakistan, but they've got fixtures coming up against Scotland today, which should virtually guarantee them 2 more points to get to 4. India, yet to get off the mark. Assuming they do tonight, they get to 2, and their hope is to get to 6 points and try and sneak in that second spot, perhaps ahead of New Zealand, perhaps jointly with Afghanistan on 6 points with a better net run rate. So this is a group where you need to keep a track on points and net run rate at the same time. New Zealand too, DK, now that they're batting first, will not want to take any chances. It might even come down to net run rate for them.
Oh, definitely. I think they'll want to put up a good show against Scotland. I don't think they'll mind batting first because it's an afternoon game, so they don't need to worry too much. I think, overall, New Zealand are a very, very solid side. From you can see they got Kaptil Conway, both in good form. Daryl Mitchell batted really well against India. The rest of it, speaks for itself. They've gone for an unchanged 11, which is very, very unsurprising. I think they're somebody who very steady. Once they get set, they keep trying to play the same brand of cricket and trying to get better with every game that they play. And, you can see that's what they've done generally in World Cups. This time again, they started, slightly slowly against Pakistan, if you can say that. They pushed them, but just not good enough against India. They notched it, they raised their gear a little bit and went on to win pretty convincingly. So going into Scotland, I think they'll now know that it's a very, it's an important game for them. They need to just win it. But, we all expect them to win it. They've got a very solid side. So it's going to be a good match from New Zealand's perspective in many, many ways. And just like you said perfectly, Scotland, over a period of time have been a very, very good team. Joy has also said absolutely correctly when he said that Namibia has played a very, very attractive brand of cricket. Albeit them losing last game, it was good to watch. It wasn't a game where they just got, throttled over. They were, pushing Pakistan at various stages of the game. But Pakistan obviously are on a roll. They batted really well. They bowled well. But still, it was great to watch a team like Namibia fight. And that's what we would like to see from Scotland as well.
Well, I can tell you there's one of the players, Joy, in the Scotland squad I've been wanting to see for a while. He's been in the 15, not played in the 11, a county veteran, played in the World Cup on a previous occasion, Ali Evans. And finally, he gets his chance to show his wares. Alasdair Evans with a D, and he comes into the team in place of Josh Davey, who's got a bit of a niggle. So that's an opportunity for him. And Wallace goes out, and back comes the captain, Kyle Kutsa, Joy.
You just also, while I'm happy to see Evans there, I just feel that Scotland can just not catch a break. When their top batsmen, they miss their top batsman for their first match. And now for the next match, for the third match, they're missing their top bowler. Josh Davey is, while I'd like to say Alasdair Evans do well, Josh Davey is by far and away their most successful bowler in terms of wickets. 13, 14 wickets, even the qualifiers now. He's been doing well for them. And him not being there means Evans, Safian Sheikh, all these people really have to step up to, do it. Because one of the things that we looked at is that, the New Zealand side that they showed us, it had Daryl Mitchell again batting at 5 or 6 and, going back to the conventional role. So what is the New Zealand batting order going to be is something that I'd be really interested in seeing. When they tried experiments, and if you see every World Cup, they've done one such tweak during the tournament, whether it's from the Great Batch in the 90s days to now. And Mitchell was that player suddenly who's not expected to open, and he's opening. I wonder if they'll go back to putting him in a conventional slot, or will he still open?
Yeah, that remains to be seen, because we had Devon Conway up in our graphic, who of course is an opener as well. But interesting, when we talk about Kyle Kutsa, he's been around for so long. When New Zealand last played Scotland on the world stage in this kind of a tournament in 2009, DK, Kane Williamson had not even made his debut.
Yes, and it's obviously been a really long time. Scotland has had a lovely journey, and what a cricketer Kane Williamson has been. An upstanding citizen in the world of cricket, doing so fantastically well. Such a lovely leader, and credit to Coetzer as well. I think he's been a good captain for Scotland through the years. He's shown Scotland, he's pushed them to various tournaments, and a lot of credit must go to him. Along with that stat, I was also seeing that Devon Conway was playing junior level cricket when that happened in 2009. So time has passed. It's been a long, long time. And it's good to see New Zealand playing Scotland. As we said, Scotland have obviously a lot of pride at stake, but New Zealand have a lot more at stake with the World Cup semi-final looming round the corner. They would like to definitely beat Scotland, and beat Scotland pretty comfortably, so that their run rate goes up and they keep putting pressure on Afghanistan and India.
Yeah, they certainly will want to do that. But it's always interesting, Joy, when you have veterans like this on the circuit, someone like a Kyle Kutsa who's been around. And yes, especially when it's from an associate nation, almost can look at Kane and say, young man, welcome to the fold. I've been around longer than you have.
Also, I spend a lot of time with Ryan Tendushkate, who's to play for, against South African, but played mostly for the Netherlands. The one thing about countries, associate countries, are you don't get 5, 6, 7 great batsmen. You get 2, 3 really solid batsmen, because their sides just don't have the depth of talent. So the guys who have it really take a huge amount of load. So people like Kedze, the kind of load they take, or what a David Wiese is now doing for Namibia, the amount of responsibility they take is actually more than that you take in a test playing nation, because normally a test playing nation has 4, 5, 6 really good batsmen. So it's all credit to Kedze and also Callum McLeod, who's also been a mainstay for them. Again, always consistent, gets runs for them, never flashy, never gets them the really, really big ones usually, but he's been there for a long, long time as well. I think he must be playing for the last decade or so as well. And those are the 2 guys who've really been around for them for Scotland.
Well, for now, of course, it's going to be New Zealand batting first. They've got to put the kind of runs on the board that will intimidate the opposition. We haven't seen that so far. We've seen some interesting approaches, DK, in the tournament. Even yesterday, when we thought that Pakistan would completely blow away Namibia, they They started slowly, knowing, understanding the conditions, and then made their way to a massive total.
Yes, that's been the story of the World Cup so far. The teams batting first, especially in the night games, have found it really hard to get going. You could see yesterday the ball was bouncing way lower than what it should, especially when it hit good length. And Namibia made most use of it. They had two good swing bowlers, the left armer and David Visa bowling really well. Crumpleton, he bowled really well, I thought. And then obviously they didn't get off to a flyer like they normally would do if the wicket was good. They kind of got off to a sedate start, but once they got going, they were clever enough to realize that if they are the only ones, the openers who got set, needed to bat a little longer than normal. But the nice part was one of them batted through and the other one kept pushing, and they got to a score which was in many ways more than par and obviously too much for Namibia. But you could see batting is a bit of a hard battle out there. No matter which ground you play in UAE right now, batting is the tougher suit, so to say.
I know, Joy, we both put the question forward. Conway, Mitchell, who's it going to be? In a match like this, afternoon game, batting first, you need lots of runs. This is the ideal situation for someone like a Mitchell to keep Guptill company.
Yeah, I mean, look, they did it for a particular reason. They want an explosive start, and they feel that I think Conway is a more complete batsman. I mean, look at that. I mean, again, 135, 140 in the power play, coming in, getting you runs early. I mean, my point is that you need to have a player like that, because what it does is it just increases your batting order a little bit more. Because Conway is a solid bat, he can slot in. They lose him early, it's not a problem. He can always come in. Conway can always come in. Then there's obviously Kane Williamson set up. Obviously, who's probably their best batsman by a mile. So you just get some a little bit more depth. And if you lose early wickets, or if you go towards the end and you need a finisher, you still have somebody like a Jimmy Neesham, who's really a quality finisher out there. So you have that depth. You're getting a little bit more of a spark up front. And I think in tournaments like this, see, New Zealand always is an overmatched side. They're teams that have more talent than them. Usually you'll see at any of these big tournaments, what does New Zealand do? They field out of their skin. They bowl very disciplined. They are very disciplined about their bowling. And they'll do one or two tweaks or tricks that no other team has tried. And this is their formula. And look at the kind of results they've got for a country the population of South Johor. I mean, that's literally them. Johor is the size of New Zealand population-wise. So it's amazing how they do it.
Yeah, I mean, we keep talking about that every time I've brought up New Zealand, DK, the response has been, be it from people there, is we have so few people. Rugby is our first sport, that the kind of pressure that's there for a team like India is not there. These guys are fine. They're playing good cricket. They're enjoying their cricket. Even if they were to win a World Cup, they'll go back and be greeted by friends and family, not by a ticker tape parade.
New Zealand is a great story. I mean, they've had a great time at multi-nation tournaments over a decade now. They've constantly punched above their weight. They're an absolute pleasure to watch. Most importantly, they've had great captains: Martin Crowe, Stephen Fleming, Brendan McCullum. Today it is Kane Williamson. They all leaders of the pack. They're very loyal people. They play a certain brand of cricket, and it's a joy to watch them play. You'll never see them behaving badly, never doing anything that is, saying anything unparliamentary. They're so friendly in many ways. A lot of teams, New Zealand have, a lot of imports into the IPL as well these days. So they're a great cricketing nation, one that the ICC should be proud to have, because they always, like I say, punch way above their weight. They are a group of people who play cricket in many ways like the rugby team, very tight. They don't let each other down at any point of time. They have a plan, they play to it. Yes, their expectations are less. Yes, the population is less, but they're still a great country to watch. No matter which part of the world they travel to play the sport, they've been an absolute joy and so well behaved. Like Kane Williamson, even the speech that he gave post the 2019 World Cup loss, just speaks testament of the kind of personality he is. And he's a great leader. We keep speaking about the MS Dhoni's, the Owen Morgans. Kane Williamson is right up there with the best in the world, marshalling troops and resources, having very little to fight with, but always doing well in a battle. And that's been the beautiful part of New Zealand as a cricketing nation. I think they can be really proud of themselves. And I think the World Test Championship was a great example of how the country united once they went back, even though there was, quarantine and all of that. When they did go back, they had a great reception. Those boys had a lot of fun. I was, lucky enough to stay in the same hotel as them when they won it. Even there, the way they celebrate is so nice to watch. They're a great bunch of people.
Yeah, and they've turned up in ICC tournaments, be it as DK mentioned, the World Test Championship. It's across formats. That's what they've done so well. Be it putting on the whites or, of course, their colored jerseys. They've always turned up in ICC tournaments, and of course, we saw how close they were to winning the 2019 World Cup.
Yeah, and you look at 2019, look at 1990. If you look at the 1992 World Cup, Martin Crowe just brilliant. Mark Greatbatch there. Dibbly dobbly bowlers, Gavin Larson, all these guys who just Deepak Patel opening the bowling as a spinner. And then, if you look at that World Cup, they lost that World Cup for one 45-minute session in which Inzamam took their
Inzamam.
attack apart. And what had happened at that period, do you remember? Martin Crowe had got a niggle and he had gone in. And the captain at that point in time was John Wright. He was a senior most guy. He became captain. And in that 45 minutes, Inzamam changed, just took over. Otherwise, if you saw they'd beaten, even Australia, they'd beaten every team out there. And that 45 minutes cost them a World Cup because they were going to go into the finals at that point in time.
Yeah,
so they're an amazing story.
They topped the group. In 1992, the format that came back in 2019. Pakistan were the fourth place team who just about sneaked in despite being 74 all out against England. And then one played four, out went New Zealand. And then England and South Africa played out that rain rule game in the other semi-final. So that was fun memories of that. But they've got players coming from different parts of the world with some great stories, DK. Someone like Devon Conway as well, who was maybe a relative unknown at one point in time, but great story to see him coming in.
Relatively unknown. I think he stamped his authority over a period of 6 months in world cricket, dominated T20 cricket, did well in Test cricket, is taken off to another level. That World Test Championship knock was brilliant. The 100 before that against England as Lords, not even 100, double 100 if I'm right. He's been a solid player. He's been an import from South Africa, played in Johannesburg, didn't get the opportunity that he felt he should have got, moved, the story that he had with his wife and how he moved at that age, at the age of 28, to move to New Zealand and then start a career there at Hamilton and then go on to achieve what he's achieved. I read about him a lot, and Sriram, one of his early mentors or coaches, one of the people that he's worked with, lovely article. It was a very, very articulate article in many ways, explaining how the journey was and how he stayed level-headed throughout this journey of when he moved from South Africa to Australia. You need such stories, you need such inspirations from people, and he's been one as an example for a lot of players in the world, that if you don't get the opportunity, don't fret, don't get frustrated. Find a place for you to go and play and express your skills. If you do get the opportunity, go out there, enjoy it. Sometimes you have to stay out of your comfort zone, but that's only the sacrifice you have to make if you want to do something big in life. And his is a great story.
I mean, a double 100 at Lord's, Joy. I mean, and when he came into that side, they were talking about him. Okay, he's an aggressive young man. So obviously you're thinking of him as a white ball player. Oh, he also plays in the test team. Okay, maybe they needed a keeper, so they got him in there. And what a statement.
Yeah, look, I mean, again, that's what I say. I always have a lot more respect for players, and not necessarily disrespect the others, but I feel a lot stronger about players who actually don't make it till their mid-20s. And that's, if you see Devon Conway's, that's just it is. He's trying to make it to the Huateng squad. He's trying to make it to South African domestic cricket, trying to keep a place out there. And then you feel that time is slipping you by. If you're not in national contention by this time, you should be getting out of this business. Maybe do something that's probably a more safe career option. And at that age, to say, no, I'm going to change countries, I'm going to try and qualify for New Zealand, I'm going to try and play for them, and then do it is as I said, I mean, I absolutely totally agree with DK. It takes something else. And that's why I tell people that, the challenge for a Kallis or a Tendulkar perhaps is less, because from the age of 14, everyone knew Tendulkar would play Test cricket or play international cricket unless he was injured or something. But when you're 22 years old or a Venkatesh Iyer and you say that, should I play cricket, or is that going to do something for me, or should I do anything else? I believe the decisions that they need to make are much, much more difficult, because it's just they're in a situation where they're not sure they're going to make it. I mean, I can't say that about DK, because DK by 17 was already a phenomenon. But yeah, for the guys who make it later, they really get pushed, and they must be wondering. And for every success story we have, there are 10 guys who haven't made it, who've taken the same risks and haven't done, say, what a Venkatesh Iyer has done. And you always feel for them.
We saw a lot of Venkatesh Iyer on the field, DK, but you would have got to know a little bit about the intellectual, the academician of in Venkatesh Iyer. How does he sort of mentally make the transition when when he walks out to play? He doesn't look like an athlete, and yet he delivers on the field.
Again, a fabulous story, Venkatesh Iyer. My parents obviously speaks very fluent Tamil, which makes it very easy for me to converse with him. A very, very clever chap. He apparently had the choice of obviously going to high-end universities like IIT and IIM. He was on his way to becoming a chartered accountant, then dropped all of that because his mum felt that why didn't you just pursue cricket? Because he was thinking actually, should I pursue cricket or academics? And then for him to decide, all right, let me give it a go, and then go on to play for Madhya Pradesh, which is obviously at that stage a big decision for him because he's obviously in 23, 24. It's a very interesting age for you to take a decision whether you want to pursue sport as a career, or do you think if you're bright enough and you have the options, why not pursue the education direction? And I think obviously a little bit of push from his mum, and I think Kolkata Knight Riders are very indebted to the mum today as we speak, and had a fabulous start with KKR, and also how level-headed he was throughout the tournament. I mean, you get a lot of young boys coming and doing well in IPL in a couple of matches and then kind of fritter away. But he was able to sustain his performance on tough wickets, tough challenges. It wasn't easy. He was opening with Shubman Gill, and sometimes when Shubman Gill found it hard, Venkatesh Iyer was going, and vice versa. When Shubman Gill was going, it was good to see Venkatesh Iyer swallow his ego and just not try, match him with a shot, and just, understand the situation, understand the team's needs, and then play according to the situation, which was very mature of him. For the outside world, it definitely looks like he's very mature, and it looks good to see a batsman doing that. But genuinely, he's a very, very mature kid with a very steady head on his shoulders. In many ways, he was an absolute joy around the team. He gets very offended if you don't call him an all-rounder, and I think I'd be very disappointed if he doesn't go on to do fantastically well in his bowling as well, because in the little that we did give him opportunities to bowl, he was very, very effective. Because I always believe if you're clever and you're a street smart guy, you can always be a good bowler with a decent amount of skills in T20 cricket, and he was a great example at that.
Yeah, great stories to hear from someone who spent a little time with him in that dressing room. But street smart, that's what Scotland need to really be. It's not always that the associate nation will produce super talented players, but if they can compensate for that, and I think one of them, Joy, is someone like a Mark Watt. Seen him,
Yeah,
he looks like the kind of cricketer who can spend a bit of time in county cricket and deliver. And look at consistency.
Yeah, he's a difficult player to hit. He's a difficult player to hit. He's a clever player, and that's what I'm saying. That when we see these countries and we see these players, we see only the top players and what they're doing at this kind of level. But what I want to say is that for Scotland to be where they are beating a whole lot of sides who are at the associate level, who probably some of them who have a lot more money than them, and therefore you need smart cricketers. And Mark Watt, left armers are a particular breed that people thought when first T20 cricket would come that you'd never really get that many wickets and all that, because what can they do? They're just spinners. And if you see how T20 has evolved, spinners have become, especially for all sides, a good left arm spinner has become, and a good leggy have become two things that no team will go into a tournament without. And I think Mark Watt does that superbly for them, especially at the associate levels. And for him to translate it at this level will be very interesting, because the kind of batsman he's going to face, the quality of batsman he's going to face is much higher than what he normally sees. But yeah, it's a battle. It's a battle for them, and I'd like to see how he comes out.
Yes, of course, we've got lots of action coming up between Scotland and New Zealand. But remember, in the evening from Abu Dhabi, it's India versus Afghanistan. We've got lots of interest coming in, lots of questions coming in from all of you. So rather than wait till the evening or the final build up to that game, we thought we'd at least stick one of them in. And this one is from our Ask Cricbuzz live section. And it's one of our regulars who has been asking questions. And his question is for DK, who's luckily on the show. Being part of the 2007 World Cup heartbreak and the T20 World Cup victory, what are your thoughts on having a young captain like Rishabh Pant and creating a young T20I team for the next World Cup, just like how Dhoni led a young team that time, of course, referring to 2007, DK, at a time when maybe everyone didn't take the format seriously?
Yes, you got to understand that MS Dhoni's journey at that stage was very different to where Rishabh Pant is, in the sense that MS Dhoni was the vice captain of the 2007 one-day team that we went to West Indies with. In the prelude to that, a couple of years he had been a vice captain, so they had kind of groomed him into captaincy. I think the same process should apply to Rishabh Pant as well. I think it will be only fair to give Rohit Sharma the opportunity to go on to lead India for a year or two in the white ball formats, and allow him to be a captain for a couple of World Cups. And then obviously during that time, I think the toss up would be between KL Rahul and Rishabh Pant in being the vice captain, whichever direction they want to go, whoever they see in the future. And then obviously thrust them into captaincy over a period of time. That's how I feel Indian team should go, only because if somebody has won 5 IPLs for you, it's the most high pressure tournament in the world. You got to give him that credit, and you got to give him the chance to do go ahead and represent the country as a captain, and allow him to showcase his skills as a captain as well. He's been really good in the limited time that he has captained India in ODIs and T20s. He's brought a considerable amount of success, which tells me that he knows his trade, he knows his skills. So you got to give him an opportunity before you bring a young boy like Rishabh Pant or a KL Rahul for that matter, and give them the opportunity to captain. I would put one of those two as vice captains, but definitely give Rohit Sharma the chance to captain for a year or two, definitely.
Well, DK has answered unequivocally about who it should be now, but looking into the future, let's assume you do give Rohit that role for a couple of years. Who's your choice going into the future with what little you've seen of, say at the moment, 2 names that we're throwing out, Pant and Rahul?
Look,
I Oh, sorry. So please, Joy, I think you answer that. No, I actually didn't realize for you. Please go ahead. I'm listening.
No problems at all. I think we need to come back to you because you've seen these players much closer.
We will.
Yeah, my point is that I feel both have extreme strengths and weaknesses. I like the fact that Rishabh wears his responsibility more casually than Rahul. At some point, you feel Rahul is almost burdened down, especially in a team like Punjab when you see him captaining. Sometimes you see, he's not being able to play freely because there's too much on him. But that's also could be because Punjab has not been winning consistently, and therefore there's a lot of pressure on him up front. But given all that, I'd still say as a student of the game, so to be a captain, you also need to be a student of the game. You need to be constantly learning. You need to be a sponge. And good captains are like sponges. And one of the great things Dhoni did was, while he made it clear it was his dressing room, he used, the likes of from Sachin Tendulkar about field placings to Saurav Ganguly to Rahul Dravid to Anil Kumble. He took in a lot. And I think Rahul, to me, is more of a student of the game at this point in time. And therefore, definitely, I'd prefer Rahul at this point in time.
Well, interesting. They're both wicketkeeper batsmen. So we've got one more wicketkeeper batsman. So, DK, I was getting Joy's perspective just to break the conversation up. But yes, I think you're fully right about what you said about Rohit Sharma. But just to finish off the discussion, looking ahead into the future, is there something you see between Rahul and Rishabh that maybe gives one an edge over the other, purely as a leader?
No, I think what's important, I feel, is, it's important to have that candid conversation with Rohit and figure out who he would like as his lieutenant, so that when he is not around, because with the current scheduling and, the amount of matches they play, it is humanly impossible for Rohit to play all the formats, all the matches. Like, they finish the World Cup on the 14th, if they go to the final, and the next match is on the 17th. So it's literally impossible for you to, keep on playing back to back. So I think the question is not to, me or anybody else. I think they should have the chat with Rohit once they decide that, you have been, obviously, you are the captain. We are looking around KL and Rishabh Pant. Is there a direction that you would want anybody that amongst the two that you feel would obviously be your lieutenant, so that there is a certain process in place? Great teams, great leaders. Obviously, one of the qualities of a leader is that when you leave your throne, you find your successor in, and you try and groom him through the time that you're a leader. I think that's a very important quality as a leader. And I think hence the question must be asked to Rohit and who he feels has a good opportunity. Also, the other couple of guys, if there's, obviously not just Rohit, a couple of the senior players as well. So I feel obviously these two names are definitely top of the list for me. And if you just take credentials, let's just take credentials. KL in many ways hasn't captained for Karnataka too much, whereas Rishabh Pant has captained for Delhi and won a T20 comp, Syed Mushtaq Ali, for Delhi. So that gives him the weightage. On the other side, if you do see, KL has led close to 28 games of IPL and won 14 games and done phenomenally well as a batsman during that time, whereas Rishabh Pant has just led for about 14 games this season or 15 games this season. So in terms of high pressure games, obviously KL has a slightly upper hand. So if you do weigh the pros and cons, it's very hard for us to exactly pinpoint a name. And unless I play beneath both of them and them being captains, I would then give you a fair point or a very honest view on who I think is better at this point of time. Both of them are great individuals. Interestingly, both of them play all three formats for India today. They are certainty in all three formats. So whichever direction you go, I think there is no harm. What I would like to see is, please see the bigger picture. Who do you think will be the captain for the next 5 years? Every captain who's done well for India have got at least a 5 to 6 year period, and that must be given to KL or a punt after Rohit leaves. So keep that as the benchmark for you to decide who will take Indian team forward.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating to listen to Dinesh Karthik on that, and taking us back even to MS Dhoni being a deputy and then stepping up rather than coming out of the blue. So fascinating to see the process involved in getting or selecting or thinking about a possible future captain. For the moment, the only process we need to think about before we wrap the show, Joy, is the process of stimulating the grey cells. What's your question for the day?
Okay, it's a question that doesn't have too many other cricketers. This list of 25 cricketers, and it's a complete list, features mostly Englishmen because of the length of their domestic season, and that's a hint, or foreigners who played county cricket. What list and which cricketer is the only exception? That means he was neither an Englishman nor did he play domestic English cricket. Only 25 people are on the list.
Yeah, I think I can see which direction this is going. But as I said, this is one that will stimulate the grey cells. Start thinking about it. Give us the answers. Hashtag Cricbuzz Live. And of course, we should be back with much more conversation on that. Quick prediction, gentlemen. Are we expecting a really big score from New Zealand against Scotland? If so, how big, DK?
I would go for 160. I think it's a very hard wicket to bat on, but I would still put my money on to say they should get 10 to 15 above par. So I'm going for 160.
160, yeah, that's the kind of total I think New Zealand would be aiming at. Joy, higher, lower?
I'm going to go higher just because I think that they're going to test themselves a little more. They'll try and if they have wickets in hand, they'll push it towards the end. So 170, I'll go.
All right. Well, I'll keep the round figures going. We had done it once before, 150, 160, 170. So that's going to be my thought for the day for score. Match is underway. It's New Zealand versus Scotland. Looking ahead to India versus Afghanistan in the evening. Our discussions will continue, and fascinating to be in the company of both Dinesh Karthik and Joy Bhattacharya. Make sure you join us again on Cricbuzz Combox and then again in the mid-show. That's all from Cricbuzz Live.